Storytime about how I unintentionally almost drowned my sister. So a little background information, I was 8 years old and my sister was 5. And during the summer, my sister and I never really got to go swimming because pool memberships were really expensive and my family did not want to take us to a public pool. So every summer we would go to my grandpa's house so that way we could go swimming. But he lived like 2 hours away, so we would only go there once a summer. And since we only got to go swimming this one time, we would usually be in the pool 24/7. So fast forward, we're all at my grandpa's house, and I finished my dinner first, so I run outside and I put my sister's floaties on because I'm pretty sure that mine actually popped. Now, quick thing, we were allowed to go into the pool without floaties on if we stayed in the shallow end of the pool because we couldn't swim for shit. Anyway, so I put her floaties on and I go to the deep end and she comes outside like a bat out of hell and she starts screaming and crying. And being the big sister I am, I'm just swimming around, ignoring her, enjoying my time in the pool. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I unintentionally almost drowned my sister. Like I said, I have her floaties on, I'm in the deep end of the pool, she's screaming at me, telling me to take them off, I'm ignoring her. And then what does her crazy ass decide to do? She decides to get into the pool and try and get them from me. Now my sister was super tiny. Like even being in the shallow end of the pool, she really couldn't stick her head above the water. Now I'm pretty sure that all swimming pools are like this, but there's a slope that goes into the deep end and it's super slippery. So she comes over to try and get the floaties from me and then she slips. It was literally like a cartoon where the cartoon characters are moving their feet backwards really fast. And I thought that she was just joking around, so I'm just sitting there staring at her until she actually starts choking, and then my dad hurries up and runs outside, thank God. I feel like dads just have superpowers to know whenever their kids are in trouble. Anyway, so he jumps into the pool and he saves her. He ends up spraining his ankle and I wasn't allowed in the pool for the rest of the weekend. Now, of course, this had me pretty pissed off, but now that I'm an adult, I can see.
Would I be the asshole if I just didn't go to my sister's wedding because it's too expensive, but took my family on a vacation? So I, male 43, and my sister, who's 41, are not very close. Never were, and I don't see this changing. She was great caring for my father when he was ill, and still mostly takes care of our mom. But other than the eventual family talk, we are basically not connected. We live in different countries. She is in Europe, and our mom lives part-time in our country and part-time with her. She just told me she plans on getting married in November. I had planned my vacations for July to visit my mom, and in October to visit friends we haven't seen for almost 5 years. I've got tickets and everything for my whole family, wife and 2 kids. Now she demands that I be a part of her wedding because dad is gone and I am her only brother. Nobody else in our family is going other than our mom because she has fought with them all. I honestly don't care, have the money or the vacation time. I could cancel the second shorter vacation with my wife and kids, but even then there would be no money for 4 tickets to Europe. I would probably go alone, spend 2 days and return. And honestly, we can never be in the same place too long without arguing. And I anticipate her being in full bridezilla mode. It would just be torture. So would I be the asshole if I just skipped the whole thing?
Am I the arsehole for telling my fiance I won't marry him if he insists on inviting his female friend to our wedding? Story time. My fiance has a childhood best friend called Amy. Now, I'm not the type of person who gets jealous over their partner being friends with someone of the opposite gender. Now, what bothers me in this situation is not the fact that Amy is a female, it's the fact that she literally cannot respect anyone's boundaries. I would have the same issue if the friend in talk was a male. So Amy has always been in this weird competition with me about who is more important in my Steve's life. And me and Steve have actually broken up over Amy before because he was just incapable of setting boundaries with her, so I ended it. But after that, he realised the importance of boundaries and we got back together and he ended up having a chat with Amy. Me and Amy now have one of them types of relationships where we know that we can't stand each other, but we're civil to each other's faces just to avoid the drama. And this whole situation has been stirring for the past 5 years. When Steve proposed, Amy didn't even congratulate us. It got to the point where she even refused to call me Steve's fiance, and my fiance Steve would keep correcting her and be like, she's not my girlfriend anymore. So now that we're planning our wedding, we are starting to choose who is going to be part of our bridal party and our groomsmen. So I beg you, please imagine my disgust when I find out that Steve wants Amy to be one of his groomsmen. And after he asked her to be a groomswoman, she sent me this text. Just so you know, I am and always will be Steve's biggest priority. You may be a wife, you may have kids one day, you may share a house, but just know that I will always be a priority to him because he picked me as a groomswoman knowing how much it would upset you. Girl, Amy has a point. She then went on to tell me that I should stay in my lane and learn my place. So I, of course, showed Steve this text message. And he told me that he would deal with her and not to take it too seriously. But I told him this was the final straw now. And I made it very clear that the only resolution I wanted now was that she was dropped from the wedding and uninvited. and I let him make the call. And now I don't know if I'm going to be able to go forward with this wedding because he cannot set clear boundaries, and I don't want that from my husband. He's also said he thinks what I'm doing is very unfair to him and making him deal with everything because he isn't responsible for her actions, so why is he being made to sort it all out? He said he feels like I'm putting unnecessary pressure on him. So what do you think I should do?
Am I wrong for declining an invitation to my best friend's wedding? My best friend Anne is getting married soon. She announced her engagement a year ago. When she first announced it, I was in the procedure of trying to lose weight. I was somewhere around 93 kilograms when she last saw me, and now I'm 61. Ooh, girl, we gotta convert that. I'm sorry, 93 kilograms. Okay, she was 205 pounds, and now she is... Ooh, whoa, 134. Good for you. We don't live in the same town anymore because I moved 6 months before she announced her engagement. So anyways, she asked me to be her bridesmaid not too long ago, and I accepted. Fast forward to my trip home. Everything goes to the dogs. When Anne saw me, she didn't seem too happy. Something was off as she barely even hugged me. She didn't say anything then, so I just assumed I was reading into it. Later that day, when we were getting lunch at a restaurant, she noticed I only got brown rice and a salad, and she commented on how I changed so much. I only laughed and told her that I was on a diet until I lost some more weight. This led to a rant from her side about how now she feels like the fat one of the two. We have been friends since high school, and she's had this thing where she'd treat me like I was a guy. It's weird to explain, but to put it simply, I'm 5'7" and she's barely 5 feet tall. Because of the height difference, I've always looked heavy next to her, and she took pleasure in that. She used to wear my clothes and comment on how my t-shirt is a one piece for her, how my hands are so much bigger than hers, and some days how I look like her mother because of how tall and fat I was. This always made me feel less feminine somehow and kind of ugly. However, now that I lost the weight, I didn't look fat anymore and she couldn't do any of those cutesy things. Her words, not mine, and that really hurt her. I attempted to change the topic, but she kept circling back to that and then asked me if I lost weight deliberately for her wedding. Whoa, what a self-conceited ass friend. What the heck? And this is your best friend? I'm sorry. I told her that I'd been trying to lose weight for a while before that, but her wedding was a good motivator for me. I wanted to look good at my best friend's wedding and feel more confident in a bridesmaid dress. Following that, she flat out accused me of trying to steal her thunder. She said that whenever I'd said I was going to try to lose weight, I'd relapse back to old habits pretty quick, so she didn't think I was serious. She told me that I was trying to make her look like the ugly best friend. She then proceeded on to tell me at one point that she was still prettier and daintier than me. No matter how thin I got, she'd always be thinner. She added that because of this betrayal, she no longer felt comfortable having me as a bridesmaid, and I could attend as a guest instead. That strung a nerve, and I promptly left the restaurant. I texted her later that night to tell her that I was not interested in attending her wedding at all. As a result, I've been getting messages from her and her mom. They say I stressed her out, and by declining the invitation, I'm trying to guilt trip her. So, am I the asshole? In case my reasoning wasn't clear, I declined the invitation because I was starting to feel like I was only asked to be the bridesmaid to make her look better. And then she felt threatened and demoted me to a guest. Felt like I overstimulated her in our friendship.
Before they leave, they ask my husband if he's working from home every day of the week. He confirms he is. The next 2 weeks, they come over to the house to swim every single day, except Chloe never gets in the water. Instead, she hangs around the house in her bikini. Whenever my husband comes out to hang around me, she quickly interrupts him and keeps him talking until he has to go back to work. I made lunch for us all, and when I excused myself to call my husband down, my sister-in-law quickly stopped me and said Chloe could call him for me. They shared a look, and Chloe looked really happy when she went to get him. Chloe also started to get touchier with my husband. She put her hands on his chest and arms, stands or sits really close to him. To my husband's credit, he does usually create space between them whenever she does something like this. The reason I believe my sister-in-law is in on this is because she's made a few pregnancy-related jabs at me recently. She told me a story about how one of her friends' boyfriends was cheating on her, and then something along the lines of, quote, "Did you know a lot of men start cheating when their wives are pregnant?" She's also made comments about how I look chubby now, and it looks weird next to my husband because he's well built. I know pregnancy hormones can mess with a person's brain, so I'm wondering if I'm just looking for something that isn't there. My sister-in-law sent me a text yesterday asking if they could come over to swim next week, and I really want to say no, but I know she'll whine to my husband if I do. I ideally want to have a conversation with him before then, but I'm not sure if I should mention the flirting. Am I being delusional? No, girl, it's right in front of you.
What the fuck?
You're spot on.
Am I the asshole for not wanting to invite my autistic sister to my art show? I, 18 female, got into this prestigious art show that I am really excited about. It opens up on Friday and there's going to be a party, but I didn't tell my family because I didn't want my sister, 24 female, to come. Long story short, my sister's autistic. She's really smart, she went to an Ivy League school, but does not do well with social cues. Usually this leads her to belittling me and being mean. My parents always tell me to get over it and that since she's autistic, she can't help it. But she doesn't unleash on them the same way that she unleashes on me. So I don't think they really understand. Every time something good happens to me, she just kind of shits on it and on me, and she never ever apologizes. Anyhow, my parents found out about the art show and got mad at me for not telling them. They told me they'll be coming to the opening with my sister since she's currently living with us. I ended up breaking down and begging them not to bring her. I worked so hard for this, and since she thinks that my paintings are silly in the first place, I know she's gonna try bringing me down in front of my friends and teachers. I asked if they could just wait until after the party and go later. The show will be up for a week, but they said they'd be coming to the party. They also said I was being ableist by wanting to exclude my sister. My sister found out and started screaming at me and calling me an asshole for not letting her share in this moment with me. From my point of view, I just want to have a happy night and celebrate this accomplishment. But I don't know, everyone in my family's pissed at me, so maybe I am the asshole?
Am I the asshole for not wanting my soon-to-be father-in-law at our wedding?
Okay.
Am I the asshole? My partner and I have been together for a long while and we're planning on getting married. Congrats.
Congrats.
My fiance is the most amazing person and I'm excited to be married.
Oh.
Everything seemed so perfect until I met his parents. To make it short and sweet, I specifically hate his dad.
Oh.
Now, quick background. I grew up in a family that wasn't too affectionate, and although I have my boundaries and my limits. He is very affectionate. At first, I thought it was just me and I wasn't used to being around a family who was affectionate, but no. He would start off with simple hugs, no biggie, but then, and this is especially when he drinks, starts to touch my hair, stroke it, try to kiss my forehead, tell me I'm pretty, and how he's so happy he can show me off. You got problems there?
I don't like this.
You don't like where this is going?
I don't like this at all.
I had to buy a dress for an event which his parents were at and wanted to pick it out for me, and the dad goes out of his way to say what dress will look great on me and how when they were shopping, he very much emphasized, said that would look so good on Nikki. At this point, I felt like I was crazy. No, are you okay, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm fine.
At this point, I felt like I was crazy. No one seemed to be bothered by this except me. It gets worse.
No.
I have past trauma and PTSD from sexual harassment, and it's the same feeling I get when he is there. Whenever my fiance and I are invited out to dinner with them, he wants me to sit with him, and when we leave, he wants me to hold his arm so he can walk me out, not even his own wife. He's even stopped by the house unannounced. I spoke about it to my fiance several times, and after breaking down and crying, he understood the situation. My fiance has spoken to his family about it.
Okay.
I've even told the father to stop, and the dad literally got upset and acted like a child, saying, well, I love hugs, so that's not fair. My fiance and I have gotten into arguments about this, and it's the only thing we fought about, so it makes me feel worse. I no longer attend family events. The last time I didn't attend, they told my fiance, when it's the whole family, he doesn't drink, so it shouldn't happen.
Oh,
which makes me feel,
That's the worst thing to say.
That's really bad to say. Which makes me feel like they are completely aware of the situation, but allow it.
Yeah.
I don't want him at our wedding. It's a special day, and I can't handle the anxiety.
Yeah.
I literally start to shake when he's in the same room as me. It's breaking my heart to have my fiance choose sides because he is so close to him. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole.
You're not the asshole.
My sister-in-law's best friend is trying to get with my 25 female husband, 28 male, and she's encouraging it. Am I delusional? My sister-in-law, 23 female, is my husband's half-sister. She was the product of their mother's infidelity. My father-in-law refused to have anything to do with my sister-in-law, but continued to have a relationship with my husband.
Damn.
Because of this, my sister-in-law is very clingy to my husband. My husband is also very protective of his sister and generally doesn't tolerate anything negative being said about her. My husband and I bought a house last year, which has its own indoor swimming pool. My sister-in-law was super excited when she saw it and asked if she could use it sometimes with her friend. We said it was fine, as long as she gave us a notice before she turned up. Her and her friend Chloe have used it many times before, but almost never when my husband is home. With lockdown, my husband has started to work from home. My sister-in-law asked me if she and Chloe could come over and use the pool. I told her I was uncomfortable with them coming over as I'm pregnant and don't want to accidentally expose the baby to anything risky. My sister-in-law then asked if she and Chloe quarantined for 2 weeks, would they be able to come over? My husband said it was fine. 2 weeks later, they turn up to my house. My husband was in his office, so they go straight to the pool after making small talk. My husband ends up coming out after an hour, and we're hanging out in the kitchen. My sister-in-law walks in to get a drink, and she starts talking to my husband. Before she goes back to the pool, she says, "Chloe's going to be so happy to see you." It was weird because my husband and Chloe aren't close. Chloe comes into the kitchen 2 minutes later and spends the rest of her time talking to my husband until he excuses himself to get back to work. She's super giggly and smiley when she talks to him. He would say something sarcastic and she would laugh like it was the funniest joke she's ever heard. It honestly felt like she was flirting with him. Before she went back to the pool, she gave me this weird, smirky look.
Am I the asshole for refusing to let my daughter invite her biological dad to her birthday and threatening to cancel it? I'm a mother of a 16-year-old, soon 17-year-old daughter, Kelly. Her biological dad left when she was 4 years old. It's complicated, but despite him being away, he still sent money or had his family help from time to time. I still struggled a lot raising her until I met my now husband, Christopher. Christopher is like a dad to Kelly. He's the only father figure she had. However, I found out that she's reconnected with her biological dad through his family, which I wasn't happy about, but I didn't make a fuss about it. Then she started mentioning him often, going to visit him while canceling plans to hang out with us, and more. Her justification is that her dad is sick and might be terminal. She sees him at his friend's house where he's staying now. Christopher and I were planning her 17th birthday party at our house. Kelly told me that she'd like to have her biological dad come over to celebrate since he may not be able to be around next year. Christopher said no immediately. He said he won't let that man come into our house, which made Kelly cry, saying that we're robbing her of her last chance to make memories with her dad after finally finding him again. I told her that I don't feel comfortable having him come to the house and being in the same room as him. Her stepsister said that both me and Christopher are overreacting and that Kelly wants her dad to take part in her birthday so badly. Christopher left the house and I snapped at Kelly and threatened to cancel the whole thing. Later when we calmed down, I suggested she goes to celebrate with him, but she said her friends and their parents won't be able to attend. She also said he can't throw her a party since he's sick. We had another argument and she started ignoring me and Christopher while staying in her room. She said she won't be able to forgive me if I let her dad miss what could be her last birthday with him. I'm not sure if I'm being unreasonable or she is. So am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for kicking my mother-in-law out of my wedding? So I, 33 female, and my fiance, 35 male, have been together for 3 years. When he first proposed, I immediately said yes, as he is always there for me, supported my decisions, and always has my back as I do for him. When me and my fiance both got engaged, we decided to tell my mother and father before his. While my parents handled it smoothly and were really excited for us, my fiance's side of the family wasn't too happy. So when we first told my father-in-law, he was thrilled and happy for us and our ongoing future. But my mother-in-law was pissed. She yelled at my fiance, demanding to know why her. I was really upset by this because I know how much of a mama's boy my fiance is and how much his mom's opinion matters to him. Now, me and my mother-in-law haven't had a good relationship since me and my fiance first started dating. She would always make rude comments about me behind my back and would pressure my appearance and the way I dressed and even compared me to my fiance's previous girlfriends. So fast forward a bit, my mother-in-law is still upset and disappointed at my fiance for proposing. He told me that he didn't care what his mom thought and said he loved me no matter what. We also decided to plan a wedding day on March 5th and both decided not to invite my mother-in-law because of her actions. Fast forward a bit and it's the big day. I was so excited to have my wedding with my friends and family and just relax and have fun. But halfway through the ceremony, the mother-in-law walks in wearing almost full white. We ignored it till after the ceremony, then asked her what she was doing there, and I kid you not, she said, "Sorry, I lost my invite, but now I'm here, so what's the harm?" I was pissed. I asked her to leave, and she kept refusing until we had to call the police to get her out of the venue. My husband was really upset about how his mom acted, and so was I. One of my bridesmaids said that that was an asshole move. Was that totally bridezilla move of me, or did I do the right thing?
Am I the asshole for telling my ex that I'm never gonna have kids with him? For context, I was with this guy for 4 years, and we've been broken up for almost 2 now, but this particular situation still bugs me. We'd gotten into an argument about my best friend being a stay-at-home mom. For some reason, he thought that taking care of a child and keeping a house clean only takes about 3 hours. What a fucking dumbass.
What a fucking idiot. Are you
Damn,
fucking
holy
kidding
shit.
me? What a dumbass.
God. And that she just spends the rest of her time playing video games.
Yo, And he just told on himself. Because
Yeah.
that's what he would do if he were a stay-at-home dad.
I just want to play fucking Fortnite, man.
You would be working fucking 50, 60 hours a week, and you would come home to a dirty house with kids with shit all up in their diaper.
And you'd be playing Rust.
And you'd be playing fucking Rust, dude.
God.
Man. Okay.
I explained to him everything that it takes to take care of a child, and that she hardly ever played video games anymore, but he wouldn't listen. I started to get really upset because he had zero frame of reference on this. He didn't have kids, and none of his friends had kids. He didn't have younger siblings. There was no reason for him to think this. He was basically
So annoying.
so fucking annoying. This guy doesn't know anything.
Yes, that's
Holy
amazing.
fuck, dude. That's wild.
Oh my, he doesn't have kids.
None of his friends,
None of his friends are
No.
stay-at-home dads.
No younger siblings. He was basically insinuating that my best friend is lazy and that I was stupid for believing her. I didn't really want kids at the time, and he knew that. But this argument really solidified that for me, so...
Yeah.
Solidified that for me. So I told him, well, it's a good thing I'm never gonna have kids with you. Based. Based. He got really upset with me and wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the evening. I think I'm justified in my thought, but maybe there was a better way I could have put it. No, there wasn't.
Am I wrong for splitting the bill at dinner and not letting my boyfriend pretend he paid? I, 24 female, have been dating Ben, 26 male, for 8 months. For context, Ben and I are from different income brackets, and he's expressed that sometimes he feels a little weird about this. That's because he's a gentleman at heart, but says it's hard to treat me since I'm not really impressed by his gestures. I've said many times I'm not concerned about those kinds of things either way, but it does come up periodically. Well, last night, Ben and I went to dinner with 6 of my friends, and there were 3 men and 5 women. At the end of the dinner, the 2 guys, Max and Harry, said they would get the bill as the guys usually do when we're out. Ben quietly said to me he wasn't really comfortable with the guys paying for his dinner, so I said I'd chip in with the bill. Ben said thank you, but asked if he could chip in and I could pay him back later because he didn't want the guys to know I was paying. This struck me as totally absurd because firstly, it's an unnecessary step. Second, I assumed he couldn't split the cost. And third, I felt like he was trying to enter a pissing contest with my friends, which was just childish. So I said no and told everyone I would chip in a third of the bill. No one batted an eyelid, but Ben was sulking. He's now mad at me saying I emasculated him and made him look bad in front of my friends. I think he's being so dramatic because my friends couldn't care less, and I think he needs to get over himself. So, am I wrong for not letting him save face? I think this story is kind of interesting to me because everybody's so split on Reddit. The Reddit user is throwaway free dinner on Am I the A word? But yeah, I think everybody's super split. Some people are saying like it's totally fine. It's not that big of a deal. He just didn't want to feel embarrassed because obviously the other men are paying for the women and he wanted to kind of be a part of that, but knew he couldn't afford it. Then there's other people saying asking someone else to take the credit is really weird, it's really trashy, and at the end of the day, like it's not that big of a deal on that side too. And it's funny because I've actually seen women like want their men to like pay the bill, but no they can't, so they give the card and like the man looks like he paid, you know? It's so everyone's different.
Am I the asshole for no longer allowing my girlfriend's best friend in my apartment? For the longest time, they have kind of used my apartment as like their little clubhouse. They've used it because it's the closest to the bars and restaurants that they like to go to. Then they come sleep at my place and it's the biggest out of myself, my girl, or her friends' places. I never really cared. They come in, they scroll through phones, watch YouTube. It's not a big inconvenience. That being said, me and her friend have never really meshed. I think that she oftentimes sticks her nose in things she doesn't need to. How this works is I'll tell my girl something, she'll then tell her friend, and then her friend will bring it up in some snarky way to me. Last Friday was the final straw. I've not been seeing eye to eye with my dad, and in the past, I've had issues with my mom too. He wants to literally monitor my finances for no other reason than to be a control freak. That's just how he is. I'm exhausted by him and relayed that to my girl. She then told her friend who, while over at my place hanging out with my girl, turned to me and said, "I've heard you and your dad are fighting. Jeez, you just can't get along with anyone, can you?" I didn't want to stand there in my apartment and start a screaming match, so I said nothing. The friend eventually left, and I told my girlfriend that her friend was banned from my apartment. My girlfriend argued that I was being unfair as to what this friend was supposed to do when she needs a place to crash after they've been out drinking. I told her I don't give a shit and that she can sleep on the ground. My girl now thinks I'm an asshole for such a quick, harsh banishment.
So I have an issue with a really close long-term friend of 5 years. I, female 19, and her, let's call her Lily, female 19, have had a recent falling out over issues with her boyfriend. From the beginning, the relationship was very toxic, and his actions towards her own mental health and towards other women he found attractive was enough to make me step in and give my opinion on possibly ending a very toxic relationship. She kind of agreed with me, but kept on dating him. Even when she would come back to me in tears after something else that he had done.
I guess that's not really an agreement then.
I didn't tell her to end the relationship again after that because it was her relationship and I know I shouldn't push too hard for something that big in her life. This went on for half a year. I then soon began to date my now boyfriend, and things were going all right between us all until our boyfriends had a massive falling out. Lily's boyfriend had continuously done childish and destructive acts, also sometimes very gross, to my boyfriend and his property. They both live together at the same accommodation since they go to the same university. The final straw was her boyfriend putting his privates in my boyfriend's ice cream.
I'm sorry. Wait, your boyfriend watched the movie Step Brothers and saw the drum scene and was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that, but to his ice cream.
Yeah. So he stuck his dick in her boyfriend's ice cream, and then in their boyfriend's ice cream, then proceeded to rub them all over his door handle. My boyfriend got him kicked out of the accommodation. Good.
Yeah, that's
Are
good.
you fucking
Good idea.
kidding
Good
me?
idea.
Good idea. My boyfriend got him kicked out of the accommodation, and him and Lily both blamed my boyfriend for it, saying it was all harmless pranks. It's just a prank, bro.
It's just a prank.
My boyfriend had on multiple occasions told him that he did not want any involvement in what they were doing and never retaliated once. I would say I don't think it's retaliation. He made the other guy accountable for his actions.
Yeah.
Lily immediately took her boyfriend's side, and I have taken my boyfriend's side. We have spoken twice since the incident, 4 months ago. They have now moved in together. Why would they move in together? They have now moved in together after not even knowing each other for a year, and I know this will really trap her in the relationship. I want to be there for her and support her, but I feel like her boyfriend is holding control over her and manipulating her to not have contact with me. It doesn't help that my boyfriend doesn't want me to see her either because of her involvement in everything that happened at the accommodation. What should I do?
Put your privates all over his gaming PC.
No, because you know what? He's gonna do that to her. She is begging for him to put his dick in her ice cream.
Honestly, yeah.
Am I the asshole for telling my stepdaughter she's lucky I treat her as my own? I, 44 female, have 2 children with my husband, a 2-year-old boy, a 3-year-old girl, and a bonus daughter, 18 female, Emily. My stepdaughter has been living with us for 6 months this past year. She moved in because she told us her mother kicked her out since they didn't have a good relationship and her mother said she was too problematic. Since her moving in, I've been very welcoming and I've spent more than enough money to help her get on her feet. This includes work shoes, comforter sets for her bed, hair products, clothing, and underwear. We told her she could live here as long as she needed, but since her moving here, she'd become a burden to both my children and I. My children and I are used to a regimen of waking up, spending time with my husband, him dropping them off to daycare, and he goes off to work, and when he gets home, I cook and clean, and we spend the rest of the night with the kids. My stepdaughter has become a burden. She became entitled, and whenever she needs anything financially, she will ask either myself or my husband. When I bought her work uniform, she kept the job for 3 weeks. And quit because she didn't like her coworkers. She has taken most of my savings, taken the time from my children to my husband, and used that time for herself, and has been extremely unappreciative for what I've done for her. I told her she needs to figure out a living plan because she's 18 and a legal adult, and that she needs to start adulting. She mentioned how she was in online school, and I told her that wasn't enough since there are more hours in the day and she can do more things than just be lazy and use her computer as an excuse. She told me that I'm jealous of her relationship with my husband, and I reminded her that she's living in our home rent-free. I told her she should be lucky that I treat her as my own because not everyone would do such for their stepchild. My husband thinks I'm wrong for saying this to her and that what I did was harsh, but I don't see how when she's 18 years old and she's grown. So am I the asshole?
I'm supposed to get married to my fiance in 2 days, and I don't know if I should call it off. I'll try to make this short while I cry of sadness. I've been dating this guy since June of 2022, and in September of that same year, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and this past April, he asked me to marry him. So we've been engaged since then, and he came to Hawaii with his mom and dad, and with my mom and dad, my sister, and best friend. 90% of the time, he's a calm person. He opens the door of the car for me, kisses me every morning and every night. He's a gentleman and a very loyal and honest person. The other 10%, when we fight, he insults me. Fake, know-it-all, psycho, piece of shit, you don't give a shit about me, this relationship is a joke, and etc.
Coffee
Yesterday
with
was our
Boxley.
first day in Hawaii, and in 2 different occasions, his behavior in front of everyone in the table was intense and out of line. He started yelling just because we disagreed that not all Italians hate Americans. I'm from South America, and so it's my family, and he's from the US, but we all currently live in the US. And then at some point, my sister's boyfriend was like, it's always greener on the other side. And he started getting very passionate and saying, nope, it's not always greener. You're mistaken. Anyway, the whole conversation in the table was uncomfortable because he was way too intense. Even his mom told him to calm down. Then we went to the car and I asked him nicely to please chill and that his attitude made me uncomfortable.
Can't
He
forget
started
her
yelling at me, saying
puppuccino.
I'm dramatic and overreacting because that's his personality. A couple of people from the resort asked me if I was okay after they saw the whole scene. Because by the way, he doesn't care about making scenes anywhere we are. He will yell and raise his voice whenever we are in public anytime we get into an argument. Anyways, that went away and he apologized to my sister's boyfriend and told him that's usually how he speaks to all of his friends. That is not an apology. After that, we were all at the beach, my part of the family and him. And his mom and dad were at the grocery store. We didn't check in our rooms yet because the room wasn't ready, but after hanging out at the beach for like an hour, he was ready to go, and I said, but your mom isn't here yet, we can chill a little longer. He got all stressed out and said he wanted to go to the room and started getting ready to go to Waikiki downtown and that everyone should do that. He was very pushy and also yelled again and got intense with the group and made us all leave and change so we can go to downtown. I told him when we were alone that he was being rude and pushy again and that he should apologize. After convincing him for a while that he was being rude out there, he texted my sister and her boyfriend again saying, sorry I was all intense. Every time during this time of the year when my birthday is coming, I get emotional because I remember my sister, and that's not an excuse, but I'm just not in the best place. By the way, he lost his sister 6 years ago. He was 23 and his sister was 10. This isn't the first time he yells and behaves incorrectly and uses his sister as the motive for it. Then we were in the car with my mom and he wanted to apologize to my mom too, and this is where shit got ugly. He apologized to my mom and says how he wishes his sister was here in these important moments and that he is sorry for everything from today. And then my mom says, okay, your apologies are accepted, but please don't use your sister as an excuse. Respect her memory. She also said the way she respects my dad's memory is by always trying to be happy around the people she loves, because she knows he wouldn't want to see her cry every day or yell at us or anything like that. So that's the way she deals with my father's death. Then my fiance said, you don't know anything about my sister or myself, and I can get to feel however I want. Things kept getting heated and more yelling started happening, and he started yelling very loudly. Don't talk about my sister, you don't know shit. Started giving my mom crazy eyes and pointing at her. Completely disrespected somebody that's in her 60s. Then my mom just left the car, and after an hour of me trying to explain to my fiance that what he did was wrong, he said, okay, I will apologize to her. Then I call my mom and she's crying and she's like, I'm sorry, I don't want his apologies. This went too far. He also insulted me multiple times. I told my fiance, even if my mom was wrong, he could have just talked to her instead of started yelling and cursing at her. My wedding is supposed to be 2 days here in Hawaii, and my mom was supposed to give us the rings. This morning she texted me saying that she loves me and that I can do whatever I decided to do, but she won't give me the rings and won't accept his apologies, and if I do marry him, she will stand there to support me. But after that, when we go back home, she won't be close to him and will try to avoid talking to him from now on because her perspectives of him has changed completely. I truly don't know what to do. I need an outsider's perspective. Should I marry this man? She has a small update. She goes, update. I've left the room and I'm now with my mom and my sister.
Reorganizing my junk
another
drawer.
update. I canceled the wedding. I apologized to my mom for letting him speak to her like that, even though I was telling him to stop. I could have been more serious about it. His mom understands my position and respects my decision. I'm really sad, but somehow I feel relief as well. I will try to enjoy the rest of this trip with my family and try to get past this. My mom is also relieved that I made this decision. My whole family is. This man needs therapy. He has a lot of grief that he needs to compartmentalize.
Storytime about falling into a dug up grave. So So a little background information, my dad was a teenager in the late 1950s, and he used to work at this restaurant that was near a local cemetery. Now to get to work, he could either run through the cemetery or go around the cemetery. And more often than not, he would just go through the cemetery because nobody wants to add an extra 10 or 15 minutes to their walk, especially to work. Now, being 15 years old, going through the cemetery at night still low-key scared him. So the one night he got off of work and he was running home through the cemetery and he fell into a dug-up grave. And my dad was not a big guy, so he tried to get out of there as best as he could, but after a few hours, he just gave up. Now, I guess some other kid had the same exact idea that he did, so he hears footsteps quickly approaching the grave, and then all of a sudden, some kid falls into the dug-up grave with him. So after a few minutes of watching this kid try to get out of the grave as well, my dad goes, "You know you're never gonna get out of here, right?" My dad said this kid jumped up 6 feet and ran. Pretty funny story from my dad's point of view, but pretty scary for the other kid.
Am I the arsehole for telling my disabled sister that she won't be getting any inheritance? Story time. So I have 4 siblings and my youngest sister Amy is disabled, and because of this my parents dedicated 100% of themselves to her and they pretty much left the rest of us to fend for ourselves. Growing up I was pretty much the main caregiver for all of my siblings because my parents were too busy with Amy. I would do all the chores, I would look after my siblings, and I should probably make it clear that Amy's disability does not stop her from doing anything. She's more than capable of doing everything herself. She doesn't require any extra care, she doesn't require 24 hours surveillance or anything like that. She is more than capable. But my parents have literally always spoiled her rotten and she's so rude. So my grandparents passed away a fair few years ago now and I inherited all of their money pretty much. I inherited about $6 million. The reason I received all of it and none of my other siblings did is because I was really the only one that gave a crap about them. My grandparents were very aware of how my parents treated us, so they didn't really talk to my mum. They very rarely spoke to her, so I got left it all. At this moment in time, I haven't spoken to my parents for over 6 years. But recently, Amy started college and she burnt out her whole college fund in 4 months. Apparently designer bags were just more important than rent. I'm very aware that this makeup is coming very grey and trying to fix it desperately. So for a little backstory and context, when my younger siblings started college, I helped with all of their college fees. I paid pretty much everything. And my only sort of rule was that they did that. However, now that Amy is struggling, my parents ended up calling me out of nowhere. And they demanded that I gave Amy some of my inheritance money to help her out through college. I ended the call with my mum by telling her that Amy was the only kid that they had in their mind for 18 years. Now they have absolutely no right to demand things from the kids that they literally abandoned. And naturally, I'm getting shit from everyone. So here is some little bits of information that may help you form a bit of a better opinion. I have no clue what Amy's disability actually is. My parents never told us, or they never told Amy either. And then when I asked my mum why she couldn't get any sort of mental health or funding, she said it's because they don't have a written diagnosis anywhere for Amy. I always remember my parents fighting about how they need to take her to different doctors because other doctors refuse to give her a diagnosis. And I'm not gonna lie, through writing this, I'm starting to now think if my sister is actually disabled. My uncle also gave me a call the other day and told me that they were thinking about starting a pregnancy rumour that was pregnant so that I would have to pay them. And then when I said I wouldn't do that, they said that they were going to turn around and say that, well, I'm someone that likes to hurt babies. So should I end up helping my sister or should I keep the money and keep putting it into my other siblings?
Today I fucked up by telling a Twitch streamer to Google something he shouldn't have. I don't know whether to be ashamed or proud of this moment, maybe both.
Okay, we'll tell you.
But basically, I was watching a stream from a Twitch streamer I really liked, and I decided to donate 100 bits and say something funny in the chat. So basically I wrote, Sonic restaurant stocks are rising so fast it's causing the market to rapidly inflate. For more info, Google Sonic inflation.
Oh my god, I can't believe you did that. That's really funny.
I thought that he would see this and laugh. I thought he knew, but I was wrong.
He probably didn't.
He saw it and said, hang on a sec, and began typing. Aw, fuck.
Okay, you know what? This is his problem that he doesn't know about
yeah,
Sonic
he's a Twitch
inflation.
streamer. He should know about this
Are you
shit.
fucking kidding me? You gotta be... I mean, come on, man.
It's the equivalent of saying, like, blah, 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 rule 34, you know? Like, it's you should know it by now.
Yeah, like, come on, man.
God.
It's not that obscure, I feel like.
I feel like it isn't. No, I've heard it multiple times on TikTok. So
I
like,
mean, maybe
probably...
you're not into Sonic. But, like, come on,
Inflation,
who
though,
isn't?
You're a Twitch streamer. You should know games. Okay.
Yeah.
The chat immediately lit up with everyone telling not to do it, pleading for him to stop, but it was too late. He didn't switch from screen sharing to the game he was playing to what he was Googling, but I could tell from the look in his eyes that he had seen it. I witnessed live on Twitch the light in a man's eyes dying like the light of the island at the end of Lost.
I love you.
God.
I love that you said that.
He switched to sharing his browser and gave us a taste of the deviant horrors he was witnessing.
Good.
It was as a YouTube thumbnail of a Sonic Inflation video. Parentheses, how the fuck did it get on YouTube? Then
Of course it's on YouTube.
There's some suitable for Sonic Inflation videos.
I feel like I've stumbled across Sonic Inflation on YouTube without even searching Sonic Inflation.
Yeah, it's on my front page, you know? Every day it's on there.
I'm pretty sure it was on the Game Grumps
YouTube knows what I want.
Did the Game Grumps play that Sonic game?
Yeah, the
fan-made Sonic game where you
that's
go
like a
and
fever dream, yeah.
That had Sonic Inflation in it.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a pretty common.
It's
people,
fucking
yeah.
common as shit. It's like Vor.
It's common enough for Game Grumps. It's common enough for everybody else.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
So then he switched to just his camera view and just looked on, somber and defeated, the face of a broken man. He soon moved on from this, but I feel that the trauma I have inflicted upon him will have long-lasting consequences that will cause his every therapist to shudder. He may never fully recover from this.
I think it's a little dramatic.
To the streamer, if he just so happens to watch this, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way.
Guys who married bridezillas, what happened after the wedding? I was called the bridezilla. After getting back with my ex-boyfriend I broke up with from high school, his parents got into his head that he should propose. His parents got married at the age of 19, and they thought that since we're 19, we should follow in their footsteps. We were only back together for over 1 month at this point. Nothing against anyone that married young or married suddenly. Anyways, he proposed. I was excited because this is supposed to be an important moment in my life, and I can plan the beautiful wedding I always dreamed of. I immediately started to look at venues since we had 10 months to plan. His mom complained to everyone behind my back that I was planning too soon. His family are strict Catholics, so when I said I didn't want to have a mass for our wedding, they made sure the priest talked to me to convince me to change my mind. When I planned to go wedding dress shopping, she complained again about how I was doing it too soon, 8 months out from the wedding. And then she brought some of her kids without asking me. On top of that, I invited a mutual friend of ours, and I got a text from that friend on my way to the bridal shop asking if she could bring her kids, because my fiance's mom told her to. His mom also got mad at me for not including all 7 of her daughters in the wedding party. Whenever I tried to plan wedding stuff with my fiance, he couldn't handle it because planning the proposal took too much energy out of him. That lasted a few months. Whenever his family tried controlling the wedding, I got bothered because they were planning around themselves. They said that this isn't about me and my fiance, it's about their family, because their family is a big deal and this wedding was about them. Overall, they called me bridezilla to my face multiple times because I didn't like how they were controlling my wedding. Within those few months, I remembered why I broke up with him the first time, so I broke up with him again.
Am I the asshole for using a spray bottle to keep my wife and kids out of my office when I'm in a meeting? I have 2 sons, 3 and 5. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. I work from home 3 days a week. It's good because I can help out with the kids and give my wife a break. I leave the door open to my office 80% of the time. I've explained to my wife multiple times that when my door is shut, I'm in a meeting and I cannot help and I need her not to interrupt me. But she keeps opening the door to see if I need anything or to let the kids in to see me or to take out the garbage. I wait until after my meeting and then I tell her again that if my door is closed, I need her to leave me alone and keep the kids away from me. She just can't keep it in her head. I told her that I was going to get a lock for the office if she couldn't understand what it meant when the door is closed. She said I was being mean to her and treating her like a child and that I don't need to lock her out of the office. I have plants in my office that I take care of, so I have a spray bottle that I keep from misting them. So last week I was in a meeting and she came in again to see if I needed anything from the store because she was going grocery shopping with her mom. I asked her politely to close the door because I was in a meeting. She said sorry and closed the door. My meeting had just finished and she opened the door again, so I sprayed her. She shut the door, then called me an asshole for treating her like a misbehaving animal. I asked her if she understood what it meant when my door was closed. She shut up and left with her mom. So before I get dogpiled, I want to clear some stuff up. I work 40 hours a week. I might have my door closed 8 of those hours. On the weekends, we take care of everything together. Monday through Friday, there are only 8 hours where I need to be left alone. My children know better than to open my door when it's closed, but she doesn't get it. I'm at the point where I've given her a choice. I can start spraying her on camera during my meetings, I can get a lock from my door, or I can just go into work in town every day. If I go to work, she'll be stuck in the house all day with the kids.
Am I the asshole for suggesting my cousin not to bring her autistic child to my wedding? I'm getting married in 5 months. We are having a wedding of only 70 people, family and friends, including children. The wedding will be held in a church garden under an open event tent. There is fencing around the garden, this is important to us, and our reception is also fully fenced. Much higher fencing, has a quiet room with sensory items, a jumpy castle, noise-reducing headphones, and food that we know the kids will eat, due to textures. My cousin has a 6-year-old daughter that has autism. My 12-year-old niece, 7-year-old niece, and my partner's 10-year-old niece are also on the spectrum. But my cousin's daughter is an escaper. She will run no matter where she is. She will run away from home, finding ways to crawl out of windows, or more recently now she is taller, unlock the door, and run down the street or onto the road. This is super stressful for my cousin, who is also my bridesmaid. I figured she could get her ex to watch their daughter for the ceremony, but have the child at the reception. That way my cousin won't be stressed trying to ensure her child doesn't start running around or trying to unlock the gates. I suggested this and my cousin was happy with the idea. Her ex, however, called up some of my and his cousins and told them I have excluded his child due to her autism and that I am ashamed of her and worried she will ruin my day. He said his child is heartbroken she can't dress up and be a princess, which is not true, and that I should remove the other children as well. My cousin is now stressed and considering not being a bridesmaid and just staying home because of the backlash. I got calls telling me I am being cruel, hurtful, a bridezilla, and a total asshole. I now feel like my suggestion may have actually been insensitive and shown favoritism towards my nieces, despite them not being escapers. Did I do the wrong thing? Am I the asshole for making the suggestion?
I took my fiance home to meet my family and I left with no fiance. I, 30 female, got engaged in March of this year to E, 31 male. And I have been dating for the last 3 years. It has been heavenly bliss until I introduced him to my family. We went home to meet my family as it was important to him to get their blessing. I didn't care either way, but I did it to make him happy. Everyone was welcoming of him and seemed genuinely happy for us. Before the trip was over, my oldest brother suggested a sibling and partner's camping trip in a cabin up north to bond and get to know my fiance away from my parents. I was reluctant, as I typically didn't want to spend that much time back home, but eventually I agreed. The trip was going well, so I let my guard down and decided to enjoy being in the mountains with my siblings. However, the day before the trip was over, everything changed. My sister and her husband were on their 17th argument of the day, and it was only 11 a.m. Her husband stormed out, and she stayed there just crying. I don't do well with other people's emotions, so I suggested a hike to clear everyone's head. My fiance suggested that us siblings go so that my sister could talk freely if she needed to. I asked if he was sure, and he just stated that he'd just checked some emails while we were out. Early on the hike, my sister said that she just wanted to go home. I offered to walk her back, but she said she wanted to clear her mind. We continued our hike, and she went back to the cabin. After the hike, my brother and his wife wanted to explore, but I just wanted a shower, so I headed back to the cabin. My sister's car was still outside, even though it was a couple hours later in the day. I ignored it and went inside. I heard soft moans coming from upstairs and a familiar grunt. I went upstairs only to see my fiance and my sister together in the worst way. Something broke inside of me. I took a pic of what I saw, quietly grabbed my things, left my ring on the counter, and I left. I sent the picture to the family group chat and turned my phone off. The next day, I had 47 missed calls from my family and 75 plus texts from my fiance. Apparently, her husband got the text as he was returning to the cabin and wasn't so kind to my fiance. Initially, I felt justified in my actions. I hate it, but I did. However, I know that even though what they did was terrible, what I did was wrong too. Sending that picture to the family chat was gross, and the innocent family members didn't deserve to get dragged into that. My engagement is over. I removed myself from the family group chat and haven't spoken to anyone about it since. These last few months have just felt so empty. I just want to move past this, but I don't know how.
Am I wrong for not wanting to give my younger daughter's future wedding fund to my older daughter's home deposit? Me, male 59, and my wife, female 53, have 2 daughters. Let's call them Rose, female 27, and Lily, female 24. They both earn roughly the same amount of money, which is quite a lot for their ages. Rose has a 2-year-old and a husband who earns a fair bit less, and Lily has a boyfriend who earns a bit more. They both inherited a big chunk of money from my mother, enough for a 10 to 15% deposit on a house they could buy. The thing is, Rose has always lived beyond her means, and certainly her husband's. They've alluded to using some of their savings when their daughter Poppy was born, despite my wife looking after Poppy full-time while my daughter worked. And her husband recently confessed he hasn't saved a penny in almost 10 years. On the other hand, Lily and her boyfriend have almost doubled the original amount saved and never have issues with money, while we constantly seem to help Rose. Am I wrong for not wanting to give my younger daughter's future wedding fund to my older daughter's house deposit? Lily got approved for a lovely house with a 25% deposit. Rose had an offer accepted, but due to commuting costs and childcare, they could only get a mortgage for roughly half what they thought and only have 5%. So Rose asked Lily how on earth she'd been accepted on a bigger house as a younger couple. Lily was honest and told her how much they made as a couple and how much they were putting down, and Rose broke down. We paid for Rose's wedding and plan to do the same for Lily, but so far she's insisted she doesn't need the help. I want to keep the money so we can still offer it, but my wife wants to give it to Rose.
Am I the asshole for wanting to cut ties with my family over a birthday party? I, 17-year-old genderqueer person, have been wanting to have a sweet 16 since it is a big tradition in my family. My family is like a roller coaster in which they support people who are part of the LGBTQIA, but not when it comes to their child.
Whoa, okay. I'm gonna say right off the bat, probably not the asshole.
Yeah, I don't think so. I constantly get called by my birth name, which I don't mind, but what really ticks me off is the use of my pronouns. That's fucked
already,
up.
already, it's not that difficult to say they, them.
It's not.
You deserve a lot better already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Or even calling you Max. You know? Like not calling you, your dead name.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucked up.
It's still fucked up. Like, I get that, like, if
you're okay with it, that's fine. But it's also like you don't need to be okay with it.
No, yeah, of course. Yeah.
In a sweet 16, the person growing up has a court. These are usually the girl or guy's most important people in their life at their age. I wanted my escort to be my boyfriend, 16-year-old Demi boy.
Okay.
He just started to go into his transition. Okay. My parents know I dated them, but don't know we are currently dating now. I told my parents who I wanted in my court and who was going to escort me. I was told that they didn't want him to escort me since he had some mental problems.
Well, all right.
Oh, shit. And weren't sure if he was reliable for such a big event. I'm gonna be honest with you, Chief.
It's a party.
It's a party.
Yeah, that's already dumb. Your parents are being dumb about this.
I can understand tradition and it being a big deal, but like...
It's a 16th birthday party. And it's your 16th birthday party.
They can let you have your boyfriend there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, no.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew this wasn't true since I've known them for 4 years and they would do anything for me. I knew that my family was homophobic and seeing not a quote-unquote real boy walk me into my party would be a disgrace to my tradition.
No, it's not a disgrace.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. They'd rather me be escorted by my brother or best friend who already has a girlfriend who is part of my court. I had a fight with them, and during the fight, I told them that once I turn 18, I am gone. That I don't even care that I have to live on life support as long as I am away from them. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the asshole for not helping my sister with her wedding because I'm not in the bridal party? My sister and I aren't best friends, but we have a pretty good relationship. Good enough that when she got engaged, I assumed that I would either be the maid of honor or at least a bridesmaid. She ended up not asking me despite having a bridal party of 10, but I didn't say anything even though I was a little hurt. I totally get that it's her wedding and that I'm not entitled to be in her wedding party, and eventually I got over it. A little afterwards, my best friend got engaged and asked me to be the maid of honor. I happily dived into the responsibility, and it's been a lot of fun for the both of us. I've already been able to plan and execute a lot that has both made the experience fun for my friend and also a lot less stressful. On to the issue, my sister's maid of honor honestly dropped the ball. I know I'm going to be biased, but I've received complaints from the family members and other friends. She hasn't put any effort into helping my sister with her wedding, didn't plan anything, and never responds to my sister's messages. She hasn't put any effort into helping my sister with her wedding, didn't plan anything, never responds to my sister's messages, and generally isn't interested at all. None of my sister's other bridesmaids are stepping up either. My sister recently approached me to plan everything for her, the bridal shower, bachelorette, and the actual wedding. She wants me to give her the same experience I've given my friend. I was a little offended because she only asked me after she saw what a great job I did for someone else. But she's my sister, so I told her I'd be willing to help if she made me a bridesmaid. I feel like it's the least she could do, and it would make me feel less like an errand girl and really a part of the wedding. She refused and said I would make the numbers look off and I didn't have the look she was trying to accomplish, which really offended me. I said fine, I don't have to be a part of the wedding, but then she needs to hire me as a wedding planner because I'm not doing this for free. She went crying to mom and dad, and now they're calling me an asshole because I should do it as a sister.
Am I the asshole for calling my friend's fiance a bridezilla because she didn't want me at the wedding? I'm a male, 21, and my 24 male friend, let's call him Joseph, of 6 years, had been dating his fiance, let's call her Liz, for 4 years. Ever since I met her, we had a love-hate friendship. For example, one day she'll berate me just for hanging out with him, and the next day she calls me apologizing, claiming she was drinking, which I knew was false. Despite this, I was proud of the two. He popped the question to her back in October, and she said yes. The wedding was scheduled to take in early February. In the months leading up to the wedding, I started to get excluded from events, for example, the bridal shower. Despite this, I somehow am asked to be a groomsman by him, and I said yes. Fast forward the day before the wedding, my friend has his bachelor party. Since Joseph doesn't drink, he didn't get drunk. After the party, he comes up to me and tells me that although I can be in the wedding, I wasn't allowed to go to the reception. At first, I thought he was joking, and I asked him to repeat himself, and he did. He told me that at last minute, Liz told him that she doesn't want me at the reception because she believes I'll give bad vibes at the reception. He asked me not to go, saying do it for me and for her. Then I told him, you know what, don't expect me at the wedding tomorrow since I won't be able to give bad vibes at the wedding as well. That says a lot about being my friend. And I left the restaurant. The day of his wedding, I get a text from him asking where I'm at. I just responded with, you said your fiance didn't want bad vibes, so I'm playing it safe. The day after the wedding, Joseph called me yelling, claiming that I should have been to the wedding just to please his now wife and because I'm his friend. Meanwhile, I'm just listening to his freak out, not saying anything. I just told him a real friend would have defended me instead of surrendering to a bridezilla. If you were really my friend, then you shouldn't have let Liz treat me like an outcast. And I hung up. Now his family members want me to apologize to him because I made him and Liz look bad. Meanwhile, my girlfriend told me that what I did was right and I put him in his place. But at the same time, I feel bad for myself because he's a good friend and this was the first time I've ever snapped at him. So am I the asshole?
My parents revealed a 19-year-old secret to save my relationship. I, 18 female, turning 19 next month, have been dating my boyfriend, 19 male, for almost 2 years now. Everything has been going great. We got emancipated and now own an apartment in the outside of a very small town and are soon to open a car wash together. Last week, we were at a family reunion where the topic of my late grandmother, dad's side, was brought up, and my father pulled out some pictures of her. My mother-in-law, I will be referring to my boyfriend's mother that way, freaked out and looked super nervous when she saw pictures of my grandma. Then she left the room for a few minutes while the topic continued. She later came back with pictures of my and my boyfriend's grandmothers, both unalive right now, together. The pictures led all the way to their late teens and early 20s, right before my dad was born. Apparently, my great-grandfather had an affair where he had my boyfriend's grandmother, and since my grandma was the oldest, she knew about it apparently. They were raised separately, but were still related. My grandma and her dad kept this secret from the rest of the family. At least, that is why we think no one else knew. So, the math started. Our grandmas were sisters. That makes my dad and his mom, my boyfriend's mom, direct cousins. And me and my boyfriend would be second cousins. Obviously, me and my boyfriend started to cry. I started to have a panic attack, and my mother-in-law was still in what looked like shock. But my parents seemed so calm. Eventually, my dad snapped. Quote, all right, we need to say something. You can all calm down. Blank is not my biological daughter. They're okay to date. You're fine. My name, like in parentheses. I stopped crying, but only for a second. Then I continued, but this time yelling, what the fuck, over and over. Still to this day, those 3 words keep repeating in my mind. Their story was that my mom and dad dated in college, then broke up, then a few years later they reunited. My mom was 5 months pregnant when they decided to give it a try, with him promising her to give me his last name and care for me, which he's done a great job at. He was the one to sign my birth certificate, making me unrelated by blood to him, therefore unrelated by blood to my boyfriend. But my mom didn't want people to know that I wasn't really his, so she made him keep the secret for 19 years.
This is so fucked.
Am I the asshole for denying a second chance to a guy that disappeared after his mom's death? I'm 20 years old, and in this past summer, 2021, I matched with a guy 21 years old on Tinder. From the beginning till the quote-unquote end, he was super caring, sometimes even too much, aka love bombing.
Oh, okay.
At the time, he told me that his mom has cancer and that he will be going to a different state to take care of her since she lives with her sister. So for 2 months, we talked, and he was always very vocal that he wanted to meet, wanted to take me places, was always super caring, etc. However, his mom dies, but he didn't seem to be that surprised. I always told him that if he needed space and time, I would understand completely. After 3 more weeks apart, he finally goes back to the same state that I live in, and we are planning to finally meet. He was still very enthusiastic with meeting me. I just really want to... I feel like an asshole for pointing out, like, spelling mistakes, but this one was really funny to me. She wrote enthusiasmatic. I just think that sounds like a cool word.
Enthusiasmatic.
On the day of the actual date, he does not send me any messages, does not reply, nothing. I call him 3 times, he always hangs up. He once replied asking who was calling him. I thought it was weird, but understandable because we only talk through Snapchat. I tell him who I am, he replies with, "Sorry, who?"
That's a little weird.
He pretended that he didn't know me and never shows up. 5 months later, we match again on Tinder, and he tells me that he has been looking for me. He says that he was messed up because of the death of his mom and wants a second chance. I confronted him on the weird things that happened, and his replies are always about some crazy things that happened to him. He says that he got addicted to alcohol, that he was really messed up. I deny the second chance, but I feel that we should talk in person.